you here to debate?
Uh, I suppose more so to give the research I've given on the topics you currently have up.
All right. What's your name and how old are you?
Jay, about 27.
Okay. Do you agree or disagree with the topics that are on the board currently?
I currently disagree with them.
Go ahead.
That potentially Trump is a good candidate.
You think Trump would be a good candidate? Okay. What's your reasoning?
Well, for the first point, he has kept us out of war during his tenure as president. There were relatively no wars during his tenure. He was trying to get troops out and back home to the United States during the time in which he was in. The unfortunate thing is what happened at Kabul during the transition of power and when President Biden had gotten into office.
Okay. We're not in war currently, so I don't know that I would count Trump keeping us out of war as a thing. We're not in a war. We have some proxy wars going.
And technically, the world is at conflict.
Yeah,
I would like to say.
Sure, the world being at conflict has nothing to do with Trump. The war was at conflict before. I mean, if you want to be technical, the world's been at conflict for like 70 years.
Okay, fair. Just conflicts abroad. But more so, he was spearheading getting our troops out of Afghanistan and in the Middle East.
Sure, I think that he kind of bungled that a little bit.
Yeah, okay, fair, yeah. Another thing that I would say Trump had kind of done that would actually be somewhat good is he was one of the first presidents to go into North Korea without security, which is also one of the things that he had been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for.
He was one of the first presidents to go into North Korea without security. That's why we should vote for him.
Well, to be fair, it shows his bravenness and his willingness to actually talk with other foreign leaders.
You think that other foreign leaders don't talk with North Korea?
In all honesty, I'd kind of say it's few and far between. If anything, China would be talking with North Korea for the most, at least in my general perception.
Yeah. What does sure? Let me ask this question instead. What does Trump being willing to go talk to North Korea? What is that like? How does that add anything to?
I would say, if anything, it was a Reagan in North Korea, or an Oregon. Misspoke there. A Reagan in China sort of moment.
It was a Reagan in China sort of moment. How so?
Well, we weren't specifically at war with North Korea. Or, I guess technically we are in an elongated war with Korea, just given that there has never been any signed peace between the U.S. and North Korea. Trump had pretty much extended an olive branch towards them in some shape and form, at least to negotiate, at least to chat.
What are you talking about? Did he accomplish anything? Yeah, but did he accomplish anything by having talks? Did he accomplish anything? Nothing happened with its talk for North Korea. North Korea didn't slow down any of their operations. They didn't dismantle any of their warheads. What did him speaking to North Korea accomplish?
They slowed down for like a few months. All right. Overall,
no, they didn't.
Did they slow down? Not exactly, but they did slow down for the few months that he was chatting with them.
They really didn't, though. So I don't understand what this was accomplishing.
All right, you got me on that one.
Okay. So then,
reason to vote. So another really, reason
before we keep going, I just want to go. I just want to go through what we've talked about so far. So far, we talked about his military operations, and we've shown that he didn't really do anything with that. And we talked about his willingness to speak with other nations like North Korea, and showed that he really didn't accomplish anything with that. So you said you had a third one. I'm totally happy to listen to it, whatever the third option is.
The Abraham Accords.
Okay, the Abraham Accords. This would be your. Well, go ahead and tell me what the Abraham Accords are.
Basically, it was Trump negotiating peace in the Middle East between Israel and the surrounding nations.
Oh, well.
And attempting to have some sort of come together with that, at least before the tragic events of what we know with what's happening under President
Biden. Okay, so if you believe that the conflict between Israel and Palestine only started on October 7th, that would be ignoring the fact that Israel has been.
Believe that, no.
Okay, so Israel's been bombarding. Yeah, Israel's been bombarding Gaza for years during Trump's presidency. So what did the Abraham Accords accomplish if Israel continued its onslaught of Gaza, as well as their control over the West Bank?
If anything, I'd say it put forth a two-state solution.
Except Israel doesn't want a two-state solution.
But it gave them all a table to get to a two-state solution. Despite Israel not wanting it.
Okay, how can the Abraham Accords seek a two-state solution when Gaza wasn't even one of the countries to sign the Abraham Accords? The signatures of the Abraham Accords was Israel, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Morocco, and Sudan. Where is Gaza or the West Bank's representation in the Israel Accords?
Good thing you got me on that one.
Okay. Kind of seems like you should vote for Trump personally, because everything you keep saying is a reason why.
You're making me kind of think that I want to vote for Kennedy Jr. now.
Just saying, kind of seems like Trump isn't really accomplishing anything. I would gladly listen to anything you got that the man accomplished.
I mean, for the most part, he kept us out of global conflict. And another thing I think that he mainly did was he had tried. He did spearhead the NATO allies to pay more towards the NATO bills.
You said he spearheaded the NATO allies to pay more.
Yes, to pay more towards NATO and their own militaries. In an effort for us to be less of the world's police force and more so encourage other countries to help and assist.
Yeah, so all I would say is that when it comes to NATO, they don't have they have a guideline where they say, you should contribute at least 2% of your GDP on defense, but there is no obligation to this. So if they are not obligated to do it, what does it matter if they're not doing it?
Well, it matters in order to keep the coalition alive, as well as to make sure that we as a country are not spending more money in NATO to keep that thing alive.
But we don't. The NATO guidelines don't require the US or any other country to pay to NATO. It only says that each country needs to spend 2% of their GDP towards their own defense to prevent like being attacked by a non-NATO entity. So when Trump is saying we want them to pay up into NATO, what is he talking about? Because that's not how it works. Members are not required to make direct contributions to NATO.
Basically, the NATO countries have not been keeping two set guidelines of their own respective GDP and have been pretty much undercutting so far as
In fact, wait, really quickly, I have a fact check up about this. NATO does require members to make direct contributions to fund the organization's own operations, but there is no sign that members have failed to make these contributions, which constitute a tiny fraction of the allies' defense spending. And Trump has made clear that his talk of debt is about the 2% guideline. So he's specifically talking about the 2% guideline, not about the contributions that countries have to make to NATO. So he isn't even talking about people paying up for the operational budget. He's talking about the 2% that they have to pay to their own defense budget out of their GDP, which is only a guideline, not a requirement.
Supposing that he's tried to make the guideline more so a requirement.
I just don't understand what what it matters if they're not spending 2% of their GDP on their defense budgets. Like what would Trump getting them to do this accomplish?
Less money would technically mean less preparedness for NATO should another foreign nation attack.
Here, let me ask you a question. Regarding to NATO then. Do you believe that we should be assisting Ukraine in pushing back Russia? If the answer isn't immediately yes, then I don't understand why you're worried about the NATO thing, because that would be directly tied to NATO. In
all honesty, I'm partial on that entire thing because I feel like Ukraine itself should be in that war with the dispute on its own. But it has been NATO allies who have been putting forth support. And it's also been NATO who have been expanding in the region before this entire conflict with Ukraine has happened.
So I just want to confirm. You want us to strengthen NATO, but you don't want us to help out when there's a conflict regarding NATO.
Okay, I see the lapse in my logic there.
Okay.
But in all honesty, Ukraine is right next door to Russia, and basically Russia has pretty much been saying, hey, this country is ours, and has been repeatedly saying since sometime in the 1900s that, hey, NATO shouldn't be past this line. But NATO
just because Russia claims a country as theirs, does that mean it really is? Like Hitler technically claimed that Poland belonged to him. I think just because Russia says something, that means we allow a sovereign nation to be invaded.
What we should do is we should look at history and look at the claims rather than going immediately to war.
Yeah, if we want to look at the history, we'd have to look at the Budapest Memorandum. That's why we're in this conflict to begin with. The Budapest Memorandum has been, we have to, what's the word I'm looking for? We have to honor the Budapest Memorandum, so we have to aid Ukraine. Do you know what the Budapest Memorandum is?
I actually do not know.
Okay. So the Budapest Memorandum was basically something that we signed with Russia and the UK that said if Ukraine, it confirmed that Ukraine was part of a treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons and effectively removed all Soviet weapons from Ukrainian soil. Once us, Russia, Ukraine, the United Kingdom, and Kazakhstan signed the Budapest Memorandum, we basically said if Ukraine gets rid of all its weapons, then all of these other countries have to refrain from economic coercion designed to subordinate to their own interests the exercise by Ukraine, the Republic of Belarus, Kazakhstan, of their rights inherent in its sovereignty, and thus to secure advantages of any kind. Refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of the signatories to the memorandum. So because Ukraine got rid of their things, none of the countries that signed this memorandum could threaten or use force against those territories, right? For the integrity of their political independence. Russia broke this. Russia directly broke this. So we have to if we don't help Ukraine, which by the way, we're only helping them with weapons and we're not sending boots on the ground, they're doing the fighting. But because Russia signed this and we signed this, if Russia breaks this and we don't help Ukraine, why would anyone ever sign any sort of treaty or acknowledgement or anything with us ever again?
All right, you've opened my eyes on this conflict.
All right. Anything else you like about Trump?
I guess my own other dig against President Biden would be his own mental acuity, which I know Republicans have brought up in the past.
Yeah, I don't care if both Trump and Biden are senile. Okay, first of all, I'm not voting for either of them. I don't like either of them. But if you're gonna say, well, I don't trust Trump's mentality, I would say, well, let's look at. Or I'm sorry, if you're gonna say I don't trust Biden's mental state, let's look at what's happened through Biden's presidency. Right, the CHIPS Act got signed, the infrastructure bill got signed, the COVID rescue plan got put through. A lot of major legislation has gone through Biden's team and been bipartisanly passed and put through. I would say if Biden's able to, as a president, get major bipartisan legislation in, then that would at least put him a tick over Trump. I don't like either of them. And I think Biden has also signed through legislation that is incredibly harmful and has done harmful things. But I'm just saying, if I'm just looking at the two, I see one of them is able to get legislation passed through while the other is not. So I don't know what we're going to talk about mental acuity, because the president only has so much power. It's about who they surround themselves with.
Another issue to put on this is, and a tick to put on Trump rather than Biden, would be his own way of morale. Well, he has had a lot of militarily flubs. Case in point, the Kabul withdrawal, which was
set up by Trump,
to say the least.
He what would you have rather he'd done when we were withdrawing? Would you rather if he just said, no, we're not going to withdraw? Trump set the date. Trump began the operations.
Set the date, yes.
The withdrawal was going to go that way no matter what.
We should have continued the things through the transition, which in all honesty was tumultuous. We should have continued the withdrawal of everyone through the time of the withdrawal.
We withdrew on withdrawal date.
And reason why that the tragedy had happened is that Biden had wanted to push the date forward to 9/11 as a symbolic gesture.
We withdrew on the original withdrawal date. He didn't move the dates. We withdrew on the withdrawal date. The issue that was going to be unavoidable, right, is as you slowly dwindle, right, there's going to hit a curve when you're going on the hill of withdrawing troops where you have to pull them all out. Otherwise, the ones that are still there are at risk, right? So if there's an enemy combatant and let's say you have 50,000 troops in an area, so the enemy is not willing to combat you because the enemy only has 25,000 troops, as soon as you tick past 25, the enemy is going to be more likely to combat you. So at some point, you have to leave. And we decommissioned pretty much everything that was there before we left. So like, I understand that the conflict in that region first of all, we shouldn't have been there anyway. Like, if we want to get like all technical, but like,
fair.
But like, I don't know what Biden could have done differently. Like people say all the time, well, his withdrawal was bad. What? There's nothing he could have done differently. The withdrawal is always going to end that way.
The thing that I had heard in the news was that Biden was wanting to push forward the date, where instead it was the May or June timeline, to instead move it forward so that it would be the 9/11 timeline instead, which was why the forms to get civilians out at the time were paused, which was pretty much. That is what I had heard.
Let me see what was proposed and when and if he moved things up. As part of the United States-Taliban deal, the Trump administration agreed to initial reduction of U.S. forces from 13,000 to 8,600 troops by July 2020, followed by a complete withdrawal by May 2021. The Taliban kept its commitments. Started by the administration, there were 2,500 U.S. soldiers remaining in Afghanistan, and in April 2021, Biden said the U.S. would not begin withdrawing these soldiers before May 1st, but would complete the withdrawal symbolically by 11 September. The Taliban began a final offensive on 1 May, and on 8 July, Biden moved up. The Taliban began an offensive. He had to move up the date faster. So he did move up the date. I agree with you. He moved up the date to 8th of July with a complete. He moved up the completion date to 31 August because they started an offensive. He had to get them out. Otherwise, we would be there forever. So I will agree. He moved up the date, but it was not without prompting, you know?
The other thing I would say is that he has also not given much to the morale of the country.
How is getting bipartisan legislation passed not more morale building than just dogging the opposing party? Everything out of Trump's mouth is Democrats evil.
By the times in which he's been over at the military giving support for the people, either dozing off or even then staring
he's
at
fucking almost 90 years old. Yeah, he's gonna doze off.
Were happening.
He's almost 90 years old. Like, he's gonna doze off. I don't really care that an old man dozes off occasionally. He's fucking almost 90.
Even still, looking at his watch while trying to pay respect to the fallen soldiers, that is a morale killer.
I think that's reaching a little bit. Would you want to be
in a military where your own leader is just looking at a clock, waiting for the proceedings to end?
I think looking at a watch does not signify. Hold on. I'm going to answer your question. I think looking at a watch does not signify, oh, I want this to end. He could have just wanted to know what time it was. Right. Also, I would say if you're the president, he probably has a pretty busy schedule. So it's probably pretty important that he knows what time it is at all times. Right. Like, wouldn't you say, like, to know, like, oh, because he probably has to be somewhere after this and somewhere after that. Like, no, I don't think a president if Trump looked at
forgetting what time it was and constantly looking at the clock.
Sure. What about
the proceeding is lasting? Does give the optics of, oh, the president does not want to be there.
Well, sure. If you're gonna say constantly, I would need to see video of the event and see just how many times he looked at his watch. Right? I can't make a judgment on that without knowing exactly how many times he looked at his watch. If he looked at his watch one time, no, I've got nothing to say about that. If he looked at his watch like 50 times, like every couple of seconds, yeah, I'd probably be like, okay, that's a little rude, but like, Trump dogged a war criminal. How is that morale building? Trump used funds from Trump used military pay as a negotiating tactic to try to get a policy passed. That's not morale. That's not going to lower morale to say, I don't really care about your pay. I will pay you guys less if my policies don't get passed. I feel like that's a bit more morale killing, right?
They're on that.
So like, if it's my whole thing. Like every criticism of Biden could be equally leveraged against Trump, basically.
All right. Another thing would be the southern border. Trump did keep the southern border more secure.
We were in COVID,
albeit
nobody was coming anyway.
Even before COVID, and even he didn't have an after COVID, but before COVID, he was keeping the border secure.
The numbers were just maintaining what they were pre-Trump. He didn't do anything to they didn't drastically decrease under Trump. They just maintained what they had been.
Yes, but unlike now, you have
now
people coming in via sea, air, and everything else.
Well, they always have done that, right? The predominant amount of people that are undocumented here are visa overstays. But the reason why is because COVID decimated the world economy, and ours bounced back fairly decently, right? So because our economy bounced back fairly decently, people want to come over here because our economy is doing fairly well, right? So people want to travel to places that are doing better economically, right? But if we want to talk about the border, I would say Trump just lied about the border, right? I'm going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Didn't finish a wall. The wall has multiple gaps. Mexico ain't paying for nothing, right? If we like Trump, like right. if we want to then counter with Biden, and Biden kept some of Trump's border policies. Biden's made it more difficult for asylum seekers via the stupid app that his administration put out that just doesn't work, right? So asylum seekers have actually had a harder time getting into the country. Biden is giving more money to Border Patrol, his administration giving more money to border security every step of the way. Like, I don't understand what could Biden
be doing? Though, that's been misused because Alejandro Mayorkas has not been using said money for the border, and more people have been getting through unchecked and unguarded. They have even what's the word? They've impeached Alejandro Mayorkas because he wasn't using the funds for what he needed and wasn't keeping tabs on what he was supposed to keep tabs on.
He was impeached because he lied to Congress.
And because he didn't know all of the facts.
No, the sole reason for his impeachment was because he lied to Congress. That's what I'm reading right here from the Committee on Homeland Security.
All right. Insofar as the
but hold on. I just want to address this. Sure. Let's to
circle back.
Hold on. Before we do that, I just want to wait real quick. I just want to finish the border thing before we move too far away from it. Like, okay, the border is an issue. What specifically do you want to see Biden do to secure it? Or let me ask you an even better question. What is the issue about the border? That people are coming over here illegally? I don't know why I would care. I'd let them in. Just let them in legally. Like, what do I care that they're coming in illegally? Not exactly
that, but the potential let-in of people who have malintent for the country, like fentanyl traffickers and such.
The majority of people who bring in fentanyl to our country are American citizens. They are citizens of this country. They are not undocumented immigrants.
I would say that the majority of people who bring in fentanyl are actually drug cartels.
No, they are American citizens. They are legal citizens of this country. I can pull you up the exact numbers if you like.
All right. As you're doing that,
60%.
I did put in the link in your chat with the Biden Watch thing as well.
Sure, I'll pull the. Which chat did you put that in? The YouTube one?
YouTube. YouTube. Let's fail.
See it.
It's a few messages up. Right between Sapphire and Good Golly.
Am I high? I don't think it went through. I'm not seeing it anywhere. But really quickly, before we get off of it, fentanyl smuggling is ultimately funded by U.S. consumers who pay for illicit opioids, nearly 99% of whom are U.S. citizens. So most of the people who are buying fentanyl are U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens were 86.3% of convicted fentanyl drug traffickers, 10 times greater than convictions of illegal immigrants. So U.S. citizens are the ones trafficking it. 99% of fentanyl seizures occurring at legal crossing points or interior vehicle checkpoints are not on illegal migration routes. So U.S. citizens who are subject to less scrutiny when crossing legally are the best smugglers. So it's U.S. citizens that are doing it. We're doing it. The citizens are the ones smuggling the fentanyl. We're the ones smuggling it, and we're the ones consuming it. And only 0.2% of the people arrested by Border Patrol for crossing illegally possess any fentanyl whatsoever. 0.2%. 0.02%.
Right. In that case, then. And then I did send the watch thing there.
Yeah, it's not popping up for me in the chat. Do you have like just the name of the webpage or the video or whatever it is you're?
I can actually give you YouTube URLs for that.
Oh, just give me the name of the video. If it's just YouTube, I'll just take the name of the video. I'm sure it'll pop up.
All right. Forbes breaking news. Psaki asked point blank about Biden checking his watch. And then also, WION, Biden faces heat online for checking time while honoring fallen troops.
So my issue is none of these are full. The problem is I need the full video of how many times he checked his watch, right? If they're just saying he checked his watch once and that's the problem, I just disagree with this. Could he have checked his watch at a later time? Sure, but like I disagree that it's like a votable issue, right? I would never say now don't vote for someone because they checked their watch, right? But yeah, I'm not denying he didn't check. I'm not denying he checked his watch. There's video footage and pictures of him checking his watch. I'm not denying that he did it.
I mean, another thing too that would very much discount Biden for me is just his finality at this point, which you said you don't really care about. But
like
how on a Shabbat pressure.
Like his finality as in like
that word.
Like is it like his finality? Like is he gonna die? Is that what you mean?
No, his
is he senile?
Senility.
Yeah,
senility.
I would just say Trump is in the exact same boat. If you watch a Trump speech, he doesn't know what he makes no sense. He just says nonsense. I would say
somewhat less so. The thing with Trump is like
they're 4 years different in age. Do you really think 4 years is making that big of a cognitive difference?
I would say yes. Especially at that advanced
Do you think when we originally elected Biden that he was cognitively there was a cognitive decline?
I would say yes.
Okay, Trump is the same age as Biden.
He has said, and I quote, "True and on a Shabbat of pressure, that a cast care."
Trump
he has legitimately also said on a podcast, if you're questioning whether you're for me or for President Trump, then you ain't black, quote for quote.
I would never say Biden's not racist, just like I would never say Trump's not racist. Would you indulge me and let me play you some of like a clip from like one of Trump's rallies, like a clip of some of the stuff Trump said? Would you indulge me in that real quick?
I will indulge you in that real quick. Yes, sir.
Okay, let me know if you can hear this. I'm going to play this really quickly.
All right. If I cannot hear that, what I can do is I can.
I'm going to play it real quick.
Just this week it was reported that an illegal alien, and you just look at this, what's happening.
That didn't seem cognizant.
I did not hear it on my end, unfortunately.
All right, let me make it a little louder and tell me if you can hear it now.
Week it was reported that an illegal alien,
I'm actually going to listen to it on your.
Just this week it was reported that an illegal alien, and you just look at this.
I'll just let it play back.
Just this week it was reported that an illegal alien, and you just look at this, what's happening. Just this week it was reported that an illegal alien, and you just look at this, what's happening. Just this week it was reported that an illegal alien, and you just look at this, what's happening. Just this week it was reported that an illegal alien, and you just look at this, what's happening.
I'm going to tell you, I've replayed this hundreds of times. I have no idea what he is saying. I have no idea what he is trying to say.
This week it was reported that
I heard it on the stream.
Okay. I think if we're going to talk about like presidents who aren't capable, if we're going to say Biden isn't because of the words he says, then I would say Trump isn't because of the words he says.
I mean, look, legitimately, Biden has claimed to have seen dead people. Would you claim that the person who is only beginning to feel the mental decline versus someone who is legitimately seeing dead people or claiming to have seen dead people is more or less senile? than the one who is only beginning.
But arguably funnier.
I think I want to see what the
81-year-old commander-in-chief has taken it to new levels this week.
Give me a second.
Essentially.
Sat down and I said, "America's back."
Hold on.
You would like
from Germany, from France, looked at me and said,
No, he just said a person's name who was dead. He didn't claim to see dead people. He just misspoke and mixed up a person who is living with a person who's dead. I don't think I would say that that's claiming to see dead people. You know what I mean?
I mean, claiming to speak with.
Yeah, no, he just mixed up the name of somebody who was alive with somebody who was dead. I've messed up worse than that in like speech patterns.
I mean, another thing to point to his mental decline is like his quote of "American can be described in one word," and then he trails off into, "I met with Xi Jinping in the foothills of the Himalayas."
Okay. Trump also gets confused like that. Here's a video. This is going to be 32 clips. Okay, so head over to YouTube. This is going to be 32 clips of Trump making no sense. And then at the end of it, we'll decide if we want either of these to, if the cognitive decline also, because you're willing to vote for Trump. So I want to see if the cognitive decline exists.
Admired, respected, or listened to. We'll repeat your. Anytime I start talking, they take the red light off.
Right.
Look, he can't campaign. He can't campaign. He can't speak. So we call it migrant crime. I came up with that name because I come up with a lot of good names. You see Maduro, Venezuela, it's unbelievable. Is going to the border, doing a show. Sean Hannity, good man, Sean Hannity. We will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers. Production in the United States, country, even Argentina, they went MAGA. You know Argentina, great guy. He's a big Trump guy. He loves Trump. I love him because he loves Trump. When he called, I took his call. Anybody that loves me, I like them. Biden border will. Well, you know this, right? The Biden border bill. I'm thrilled to be back in the beautiful Virginia. We went to the last two total. Last Tuesday, Michigan total was a record. Like, ding, boom. This is me. I hear, bing. You heard the hostages singing. That was the hostages. They're the J6 hostages, I call them, because they are. I'm being indicted for you. I am. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm allowed to do whatever I want. He stinks. That's not the kind of people, you know, that we talk. This is a positive swamping. Gavin Newsom, the new scum, the governor of California. We want to get Romney's and those out. He had experience in something else. You know that. He called you, yes, Your Highness. He called me Your Highness, which is interesting. But we do need a free press to make it really to fulfill what we want to do. I purposely mix up like a name like Bird Brain. You know who Bird Brain is? But you know what? So you interchange them, and then they go out with stories. I cannot be sarcastic, so I try not to be. I just did that thing for the first time in like 2 weeks because it's a disaster. I happen to have a very good relationship with a woman called Melania. I mean, we don't need your vote. We want you to get out, though, and vote. We're a third world nation now. They don't have the pilots to fly the planes. They don't seek qualified air traffic controllers. We're going to be very strong. We're going to take over Washington, D.C. We're going to run it properly. We're going to. How does the back of my head look? Is it okay?
I don't know, bro. When I'm listening to the way he speaks, I go, probably not presidential material. Maybe that's just me.
I mean, neither person at this point is presidential material, both with Biden's senility and, well, Trump's brazenness.
But the difference is you're willing to vote for
Though
Trump.
A good majority of those clips are just in general his own speech patterns, which he honestly never refined because he was never in politics.
If that's
he
how
was
he
mainly
speaks,
a businessman.
You would do business with a businessman that speaks like that?
I mean, it depends on what we were negotiating.
It does.
Like, of course, every single businessman is out there to like lie, cheat, and get the best deal for them that they can. But even still, he's running for president. He's running to get us, the United States people, the best deal that we can get.
Mm-hmm. Did he get us the best deal we could get? If we're gonna look at the best deal we should get, shouldn't we be looking at like the numbers of the economy? Like,
yes,
it's technically been doing better under Biden.
On that pre-pandemic, like then the economy was doing the best in the United States. Then pandemic hit. Despite everything, he was still keeping the economy in check and making sure that we did not go head over heels into a recession.
We did go into a recession. Just about
rather a
anyway.
depression.
Sure, he didn't put us in a depression, okay?
He did make sure, though, that the economy was doing pretty good.
Except if we want to look at numbers, Biden has been outpacing him technically on the economy. Like, if we just want to look at like actual numbers in the economy, Biden's created more jobs per month than Trump did, even pre-pandemic. Biden has created
no,
more...
I would disagree with that.
Okay, I can pull you up the facts from the Bureau of Labor.
I would encourage you to go look up Don't Walk Run Productions. They have actually put out many a video of Biden's claims and the misinformation claims from the Bureau of...
Wait, how is there misinformation from the Bureau of Justice or the Bureau of Labor? Because how else? The only way we can get Trump's job numbers are also from the Bureau of Labor. So if you're claiming Trump's numbers are correct but Biden's are not, you would have to have some really hard evidence on that.
The main argument is that they're only tracking the amount of jobs that have been added. They have gotten rid of the main statistic of jobs returning from COVID.
No, they aren't, though. They aren't. They actually have that information. So that would just be not true.
I do not believe that. Because, like, legitimately, Don't Walk Run Productions have put out many a video debunking Joe Biden's claims on that particular number.
Yeah, I don't really know what you want me to do. I'm not going to go watch a whole documentary about this, right? But when you look at the job numbers,
it's not a documentary.
Hold on. When you look at the job numbers, when you look at the Bureau of Labor job numbers, the jobs we lost during COVID come back by 2021. So then the dates we're looking at for Biden, by early 2022. So the dates we're looking at job creation are 2022 through 2023 and now through 2024. And he still is putting up a higher average per month than Trump did. Even when you account for the jobs coming back, because the jobs are all back. The jobs we lost in COVID have already been made up. So now you look at the average after that, after the point of the tipping point, and he still has a higher job average.
Not according to my source.
Okay, well, my source is the direct numbers. So, like, I don't know what your source. My source is literally
my sources reference the direct numbers, and also constantly use the direct numbers while deducting off the own COVID numbers, job losses that.
They clearly don't. Hold on. I will literally pull you up the Bureau of Labor stats, and we can do a calculation right now with a calculator. If you really want to say,
and I will legitimately, I will go ahead and link you the Do Not Walk Run videos that I have been seeing on that then as well.
Okay. I don't know what you want me to do, right? What you want me to do with Don't Walk Run's videos when we have the numbers.
I suppose this is a way to, like, legitimately fully check and see like what all is
Well, again, if we're analyzing
happening.
the numbers, it's really simple how to do this, right? You take the pre-COVID, you take the numbers from the start of COVID, how many were lost from the start to the end. You then take, I say end, but whatever it is, you then take the numbers that Biden built back after the tipping point when we all went back to work. Then after those numbers match up, you then count all the rest of the jobs. That's how you would do this.
All right. Basic math is math, but the other thing is like what jobs have been made during COVID that both persist, and also the jobs that were not there during COVID that have been made.
Well, yeah, this would be part of when we're looking at like how each of them would have added jobs. Biden passed the infrastructure bill that added a fuck ton of jobs. The CHIPS Act added jobs.
Added a bunch of debt.
He also added a bunch of debt. Sure. What does that matter? Trump also added debt.
His main debt, of course, though, was during COVID. Biden's main
prior to
debt
COVID. Prior to COVID, we also added debt. We always add debt. The U.S. is always adding debt. What does it matter?
The issue with the debt is Biden has continually added to the debt, much more so than Biden.
Yes, but this just pivoted.
If Trump were in office, he would have ended the extra spending that was from COVID.
I disagree, and I feel like this just pivoted the conversation from job creation to now we're worried about debt, right?
I digress on the debt. Let's go back to job creation then.
Sure. Like I said, when we look at the actual numbers on job creation, Biden in his period post COVID, right? Post adding all the jobs lost at COVID, has still consistently monthly average more jobs than Trump did prior to COVID starting.
I would like to see the statistic of that.
It is quite literally directly from the Bureau of Labor. The same place where we get Trump's numbers. The exact same place. Just go to job growth. When you get to 2020, here's what you do. When you get to 2020, they have all the negatives. You then add up the negatives. You then look at when those negatives came back. At the point they come back, everything after is positive job growth. Because then we're right back up. We're right back to square one. So we lost jobs in March and April. Those were the 2 months that we lost jobs during COVID. Technically also in December of 2020. So March, April, and December of 2020, we lost jobs, okay? In March, we lost 1,411. This is per thousand, so that would be 140,011, right? Or no? And then in April, we would have lost 2 million. 20 million? We would have lost 20,477 because it's per 10,000. But even if we just take the numbers that the Bureau of Labor is giving us, so 1411 minus 20477 minus 243, Biden would have had to make up 19,309, right, to get us back to even.
Right.
Biden came into office January of 2021. Okay, before he even came into office, right, in May of 2020, we added 2619. Then we added in June 4615, 1585, 1534, 1046, 673, 268. By the time Biden came into office, we only had to make up 2,887. That's it. That's all he had to make up. By the time he even came into office, we had made up a majority of the jobs we lost.
And I suppose the main question after that is how much of that, of the first few months, was the remnants of Trump's own efforts, as well as then Biden's efforts after that.
Well, the problem is what efforts are you talking about? Trump didn't implement any policies to get jobs back. It was just the country opening back up, right? Trump didn't pass any policies to make jobs. It was quite literally just the country opening up again.
Mm.
And by the way, Biden made back that 2,887 was re-added by, let me add up all the math. 527 831 319. Yeah, it was made up by April of 2021. So then everything after April 2021 is positive job growth. Which again, Biden has consistently, Biden's average for job growth is higher than Trump's average. Excluding COVID numbers, right? This is an exclusion of COVID numbers.
All right. Hmm. You've given me more stuff to do research on.
Okay. Well, I'm going to move on then because we've been talking for about 50 minutes.
It's been that long?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, then you have a good rest of your day, and thanks for calling.
Yep. And thank you, sir, for hosting me.
No problem.
Bye-bye.